much I hate to be trifling, but keep on playing these games, you might just leave life.
All right, boom. We're live, fellas. Week 1 of the NFL, but this is episode 13 of DJ Roundtable. We appreciate everyone that's watching tonight. We are going to be focusing on the ETF spot application, the ETF spot, or the Ethereum spot ETF, application that was put in earlier this week. We're also going to be talking about Google allowing NFT gaming ads, as well as a Sam Bankman-Fried movie. That's what we're going to be covering. Thank you to everyone that's catching up with us. Make sure you guys check us out in our Telegram channel. If you guys get down and into the description, you guys will find our Telegram. Make sure you guys, if you guys haven't already, you smash that like button. Also, make sure you guys are subscribed and you hit that notification bell. And you guys can find us across social media as well. With that being said, Jay, man, I was I was at the tailgate lot at 8:30 this morning, cooking it up, drinking it up, and then had a 1 o'clock game I was at, and I am crispy, man. How was your weekend been, and what have you been up to?
Bro, my weekends are about the same as usual, man. It's par for the course. It's business as usual. I work on my projects, I work on my business. Sometimes I go out and have a little bit of fun, but that's very far and few in between. I think the time for fun and games is going to be once we make our exit at the top of the 2025 bull market. But right now it's time to accumulate as much capital as possible to be able to throw into these discounts. And we were discussing this a bit earlier before we went live, but despite the fact that the overall market is fairly depressed, everybody is either extremely bearish or they're very apathetic to what's going on in the market right now. But if you're paying attention to the news cycle and you can read between the lines of emotion that people are feeling within the market currently, you're going to realize that every single piece of major news that has come out, some of which we're going to be discussing over the course of this episode, has been extremely bullish for the market as a whole. So I'm pretty damn excited, man. So I'm working my ass off, accumulating as much capital as possible, and I'm sitting pretty heavily right now in stables. I have not made my usual DCA, primarily because of where we're currently at the current 60-day cycle, which I will go on a little bit more into when we do the TA portion. But yeah, man, it's been good. Great week, great Sunday. It's been great all around, man. How about you, Mr. Anonymous Bean? How you been, buddy? How's your week been?
Hey, Jay. Thank you. As Josh said, started the NFL week, so I was pretty deep watching the games. I got a whole bunch of friends here in Miami. We go out to a local bar, and we're all from different parts of the country, all have different allegiances, but this bar plays every game. And we sit down today, and the manager there, we only go there for sports. So we haven't been there since the end of hockey season. And there's a bottle of whiskey sitting on our table and like 8 glasses. And he's like, this bottle of whiskey is on the house for you boys. Welcome to NFL season. So it was kind of a fun day. It's the first time that I had a bottle sitting on a table when I arrived that I didn't pay for. So that was kind of pretty cool. But as Jay said, the market, when it's sort of being steady, nothing really happening, just crabbing, people tend to stop paying attention. And I just want to reiterate that it's really important that you pay attention when the market's down and when you pay attention when the market is crabbing, because if you aren't putting money into the market, obviously this isn't financial advice, and you want to put money into the market, then you have to be ready to do so. And that means you have to pay attention when the bear market hurts. You have to pay attention when things are crabbing. And as Jay said, the news has been phenomenally positive, especially in a bear market. You don't normally see this kind of good news happen in a bear market. You normally start seeing this when the coins are starting to take off. People are starting to be in profit. And that just isn't the case. Right now we're seeing W after W after W for the crypto sphere. And while we haven't seen that pay off in dividends in prices, that only means that it's probably a good time to get ready to purchase or to be purchasing, to be DCAing into the market, so that when we start to see an uptick and we continue to see good news, we could see a rocket up, and I don't want anyone to miss the takeoff. So a lot of excitement going on.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm looking at all the news and I'm like, Jesus, how have we not like pumped up to 40K yet? And why is it still sitting down, right? And you can tell there seems to be a lot of market manipulation, right? But hey, you know, football season is back. Unfortunately, my Vikings got upset, but my Packers also blew out the Bears. So that was a fun game to watch. Just finished that up before jumping on stream here. And yeah, it's been really boring. I've been so so bored in the market that I'm just messing around now with a bunch of meme coins, getting some gains here and losing some money here and there. But overall, I am up a couple $100. So yeah, I mean, that's not terrible, right? Especially when you're only doing like $20, $50 at a time. So I'm pretty happy with where that's going. That's always fun. You know, I caught what was it the other day? It was a brand new meme coin. I jumped into it. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. You know what you're doing, something like that. But you know, are you sure about that? That's what it's called. And yeah, I was on the hour chart. I was on the hour chart watching it pump all the way up, sold off a bunch of it, started dropping majorly, bought in a bunch more, went up even higher. Man, I started making so much money on all that. I was like, whoa, this is fun. But boring markets be boring, and you got to entertain yourself somehow, right? So, Will, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Hey guys, how's it going? I tell you what, man, these low prices are just fantastic buy opportunities, and that's what I'm here for, is to back up the dump truck every fucking time, buy all these great low price Richard Hart ecosystem coins is the ones I've been focusing on lately. No dry powder in my bags. I've just been dumping it every single time I get the money. I just fucking throw it all in there. For those of you who are not in our Telegram group, you should definitely look at the link below and join it. I've made quite a bit of money following some of the meme coins that one of our dudes in the chat has been telling us about. So that's interesting. Play at your own risk. Definitely not financial advice. I've been successful just because, you know, I decided to buy low and sell high, and well, at least for most of them. But anyways, that's what's going on with me. I'm just chilling up here in the mountains of New York. Mr. Dace, what's going on, man? You're wearing a shirt.
Yeah, who is this guy? You're on mute, brother.
Oh, and he's muted.
Rookie mistake.
Right? It's good to see you guys again. No, I want to echo Will's sentiment. It's been motivating to try to grow my business and to continue to accumulate as much as I possibly can, because I don't think, you know, I think you're going to look back at these prices like we currently can look back at pre-2017 era pricing, in terms of they broke a certain threshold and they were just gone. So I would agree with that. But I think we have somebody else to introduce, right, Kate?
Yeah, man, for sure. So one of the coolest portions of the show that we like to do is bring on different live subs. You guys know that. So today we are lucky enough to have Mr. Niles Jenkins with us here. He's been part of our community pretty much since we started. So wanted to bring him on. Niles, what's going on, buddy? Tell us a little bit about yourself, but I also want to know one thing before you sort of introduce yourself. How do you feel about Nate's NFL picks, like the Packers and the Vikings? It's a little weird, isn't it? Like, talk a little bit about that. I feel like that's a rivalry. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't really keep up too much with sports. I'm actually a hooper myself. I try to cut out all of the extracurricular activities, especially with like you guys were mentioning, these prices, but it seems like Nate's playing both sides of the fence, huh? I'm pretty sure that's a rivalry. I'm not someone will have to confirm that, but you know, works out, you know, either way it goes. But yeah, myself, you know, I'm a like I said, I'm former athlete, played basketball. I'm into music production, and yeah, at this point, I'm just trying to accumulate as much dry powder to throw into these markets. I got into crypto. There's a girl that I was talking to back in early to mid 2021, and she just on a whim one day told me, "Hey, I'm buying this Bitcoin thing," and obviously I had heard about it here and there, but I'd never really looked into it. And she she said, "Yeah, I threw some money into it." So I did, an absolute minimal amount of research, maybe 5 minutes. I chucked $600 at it, completely forgot about it, came back to it in November, December, and the $600 had become $1,100. So I was like, that's kind of interesting. There's something here. I just almost doubled my money on a complete fluke. So that kind of prompted me to figure it out, and I saw the crypto mindset course through Fresh and Fit. Saw our mentors Charlie and Miguel, and the rest is history. Here we are.
Cool deal, man. That's definitely an awesome story. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses when it comes to the cryptocurrency side. Like some guys like Jay, they do the TA thing. You got guys like our buddy Willie who likes to do the sentiment analysis. And then you got the fundamental analysis. What portion do you line up with?
Myself, I've always been into numbers. I'm very analytical in my thought process, and so it kind of works out the TA side of things for me. But I don't know if I'm quite on Jay's level, but I think I've learned quite a bit here in the past 4 or so months since taking the CMC course, and yeah, I think I'm coming along with that side of things. Probably going to be one of my strengths.
Cool deal, man. Well, that's good to hear. Well, speaking of Jay, Jay, I'm going to kick it over to you, buddy. Let's do a little bit of TA, and yeah, before you get started, speak a little bit. Because I've seen you actively challenging Niles before we even started the community. I remember, seeing you getting on him, making sure that he was doing his TA, and I've seen you doing that for other people. How many guys do you do that with? And is Niles one of those guys that seems to be taking your advice and giving following the instructions that you give him?
I would certainly say so. When I see people really active in the chat, I tend to latch on to those folks because I know that they're putting in an effort, right? And I know that sometimes we need a little bit, usually our biggest opponent is ourselves, and so sometimes it really helps to have some outside perspective and to have somebody there to keep you accountable, which is precisely I think why we work together so well as a group, because we help keep each other accountable, right? And so I thought to myself, well, if that helps me a lot, I think it's going to help a lot of the other folks in our chat and our course, right? When we were all in the CMC course, it would help to have somebody to keep folks accountable. And so I started doing that for Niles and for other guys in the group, and it seems like Niles was one of those guys who really stuck to it. And to be quite honest with you, I think you're shortchanging yourself, brother, because look, when I see you post your analysis on our Telegram chat, I look at it and then I compare it with my own analysis, and I think to myself, I can't really disagree too much on what he's saying here. There were times where I would ask you about this or that, or I would challenge something that you would say, but I would say our analysis, yours and mine's, I would agree with maybe 90 to 95% of it, and it's in very small nuances that we might disagree with. And I think that's just probably because of the individuality in which we do our technical analysis, right? Because even though we're all looking at the same exact charts, we're not going to interpret the same exact chart the same way, right? Because the information that I'm going to see and the way that I'm going to interpret it is very subjective to how I see the market, right? To the news that I might be following as well. And that's going to be different from how you analyze the market. And so aside from the small differences in our analysis, I think for the most part that we agree on a lot of very key things. And I think that's a testament to exactly the type of work that you've been putting in over the past year or so. And it's not actually surprising that you gravitate towards CA, because when you said that you're an athlete, bro, I was like, oh, he like my personnel bias, right? Because I grew up around a lot of athletes, right? I played basketball when I was in high school. When I was in college, I mentored for the school strength and conditioning folks. So I mentored for the head strength and conditioning coach. She was working with both the girls basketball team and then the football team over here at the local community college. And so throughout most of my like academic career, I've been around athletes. And so personally, I know that those guys and girls are always so honed in on the stats of their teams and their opponents and the people that they follow within that specific sport. And so when you said that you were a former athlete, right? In when you were in school, I was like, oh, that's not surprising that he's gravitating towards the numbers. It's very much in line with how athletes kind of conduct themselves.
All right, Jay, let's go ahead and hop into some TA, my man.
Cool. All right, let me go ahead and share my chart here with you guys. Give me one quick second. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give my analysis of Bitcoin and the current market as a whole. And then I actually kind of wanted to bring in Niles afterwards and see what he's been seeing on his chart, just so you guys can get a little bit of an insight from a different technical analyst, and so that you're not just getting all this information from me. So we are currently on this is day 19 of our new 60-day cycle, right? And I'm going to tell you guys that the bears still pretty much have the majority control, right? If you notice that we're still on this downwards sloping trend line, and every single time that price has tried to recover this trend line, it has been squarely rejected, right? If you notice here that Bitcoin's price has only been above its 20-day moving average for a small handful of times during this cycle, right? Once over here, we closed above, and then another one here, right? So 2 days out of the current 19 days of this cycle have we existed above this 20-day moving average. And for the most part, we've been sitting below it, right? We've hovered around this price point of 25,800, and it's actually not too surprising that we've been hovering around this price point, because if we do a fib retracement from our bear market low to even like, let's say you pulled it to the top of wave one, or if you pulled it to our current yearly high, you can see the price is sitting on this 0.382 fib level at 25,535. And so this is serving as pretty significant support for price, because you can see here, it touched down here once, and then over the past few weeks, we've been hovering around that price point, right? But overall, the bears still have pretty much a majority control of this market. Like I mentioned earlier, the only times that Bitcoin has tried to recover price was once over here during the 29th of August. This was when Grayscale won their case against the SEC. And then once again here, this was last Thursday. I believe this was actually the day when Kathy Woods and ARK, right? ARK Invest and 21 Shares announced that they were going to be filing for a spot Ethereum ETF. And so aside from those two times, right, price has been rejected and has been reclaimed by the bears and been pushed back down to this area of 25,800 or so, right? And that's where we are going to sit until we get any bullish momentum. And to be quite honest with you guys, I think that we still have a little bit of ways to go in terms of downwards price action during this cycle, because like we spoke about last week, by virtue of Bitcoin's price pushing past below our last cycle low, even though it was only by a small amount, right? It was during this wick on the 1st of September. That is telling me that price wants to head down lower. And then if you look closely here, I have a few dates, right? I have a few dates lined up here for you guys, right? Right here on the 13th, this is when the August CPI is going to come out. And when I say August CPI, the numbers are coming out in August, but this is actually for these are numbers accumulated during July. Right? Oh, sorry. The CPI, this report is coming out in September, but these are the numbers accumulated during August. So that's coming out on the 13th of September. And then the week after, this is a Tuesday, the 19th. This is when the FOMC meeting is going to happen. And I believe just before the CPI also, Gary Gensler is set to, I think he's supposed to give some sort of testimony to what exactly. I'm not too sure. I think it has something to do with crypto. Somebody please fact check me on that. But over the next 2 weeks or so, we are going to have some pretty major developments as far as macro news and numbers are concerned that can present some more headwinds to price. And if my gut feeling is correct, I'm going to the CPI numbers for August is probably going to come up higher than expected, which would lead me to believe that when JP comes out on the FOMC meeting the following week, I believe that he's probably going to hike the rates another 25 points, which will bring down the market once again. Now, as far as price targets are concerned, here is the first area that you guys should be looking out for, right? I believe that if we do get a downwards pressure on price, we're probably going to retest this area of 25,300 once again. And the reason why I say that is because, as I mentioned in prior streams, anytime the price comes down and tries to find support, you're most likely going to find support at areas where price has been our previous cycle highs, right? And so this $25,300 area was the cycle high here back in August of 2022. And then it was also the cycle high here earlier this year during February, right? And so if price were to come down again, it's going to find support once more at that $25,300 area. Now, if that price point breaks, the next area that I can probably see Bitcoin finding support is around our last cycle low. The cycle low during June, around 24,700, right? So expect Bitcoin to retest those areas of support. And if it fails, we spoke about this last week, but if it fails, there were a few levels that we were keeping an eye on because we found some confluence around those levels. So I'm going to repeat that again here for you guys that may have missed that stream. So the first one is if we do a fib extension, right, from the top of our wave one to our current yearly high, you can see here that 1.618 extension is sitting at 21,449. And then if we pull a fib extension, a fib retracement from our bear market lows to our current yearly highs, right, to the same swing high, you notice that 0.618 fib retracement is also hovering around that 21,500 area, right, at 21,756. So we have a bit of confluence around that $21,500 area that Bitcoin is probably going to likely find a support if we get some significant downwards price pressure during the next few weeks, right? As far as anything lower than that, I think that it's certainly possible that during a wick, we could see ourselves heading down to this 0.786 area of $19,000 Bitcoin. However, if you remember from what I was discussing last week, the realized price for Bitcoin is at around $20,200. And if history is going to teach us anything, it seems that whenever Bitcoin has gone past its realized price during the start of a bull market, it does not want to break down below that until the following bear market, right? If you notice here, during March of this year, Bitcoin existed slightly below that $20,200 area, but it only lasted for maybe a few hours and it was bought back up immediately. And so I don't see that price lasting too much if we were to head down significantly lower during this cycle, right? But those are just some key areas of price that I want you guys to keep an eye on, because it's very likely that we are going to experience some more downwards price pressure during this 60-day cycle. Now, as far as the upwards targets, right? During the short term, there are a few levels that I'm looking out for. If we take a retracement from our current cycle high to our low, I would want to see Bitcoin recover this 0.382 level at 26,404. Right? I want Bitcoin to not only recover that level, but to start closing days and building momentum above that price in order for us to have any chance of a sustained recovery, right? And so if you notice, right, check this out. Every single time Bitcoin has tried to come up to that price, it's been smacked down, right? Smacked down below that 0.32 level, and more importantly, also smacked down below that 20-day moving average, right? We have existed almost the entire cycle below that 20-day moving average. And so for the bulls to regain any kind of control, they need to start building momentum above the 20-day moving average and then above that 0.382 level at 26,404. That's on the short term. Over the long term, right? What's next after that? If we do a retracement from our current yearly high to our low, same target, right? This 0.382 level at 27,815, I would need Bitcoin to recover this level and start building momentum by closing days above this 0.382 flip level in order for us to have any chance at more upwards price action. Right? You see how on that short-term retracement, it was rejected at this 382 level here. Look at where we got rejected during this upwards movement. This was when Grayscale won its case. We also got rejected at that 0.382 level there, right? And so here's the thing. This is kind of a good example of exactly how much of a resistance, like this is kind of the first level of a resistance that you're going to see when price is trying to recover a bullish momentum. This 0.382 fib level is always going to serve as very key resistance for price when it's trying to regain a bullish momentum, right? When it's trying to establish a new trend to the upside. And so keep an eye out on this particular fib level, this 0.382 fib level, because this is the level that we need to recover in order for us to have any kind of sustained recovery to the upside, right? And then there was one more thing that I wanted to show you guys here. Oh, also, one more very key important indicator that I wanted to show you guys here, right? Last week I spoke about this. Here's your 200-day moving average. What did we talk about last week? Anytime the price exists below the 200-day moving average is an indicator of the bear market, right? Every single bear market that we've had, price has lasted significantly below the 200-day moving average and will exist below that 200 DMA until the bear market starts. And so the longer that the price exists underneath this 200 DMA, the more the bears will gain momentum heading into the end of the year. And so the bulls really have their work cut out for themselves in trying to recover not only this 200-day moving average, but check this out. We also spoke about this last year. You can see that our 50-day moving average is now wanting to cross below this 200 DMA. And what did we say this? This was right here, right? This is called the death cross. Every single time this has happened, right, it usually signified the start of a bear market. Now, I think that if these two indicators cross each other, I don't think it lasts too long, right? I think maybe it lasts for a cycle or two, but I think the bulls regain control heading into the halvening, right? But the longer that price exists below the 200-day and below the 50-day moving average, the more likely that prices are going to head much slower than its current levels of support, right? And so the longer the price exists below the 200-day moving average, and also our 50-day crosses, right? That gives the bears more momentum and more likely that the price is going to get pushed down to those levels that we spoke about earlier, right? Around that $21,500 area. And so you don't want price to exist below these levels too long. Otherwise, you give the bears a lot of strength and a lot of momentum, right? But for us, really, it's just a better buying opportunity, to be quite honest with you. Because we know exactly where Bitcoin is headed in 2024 and into 2025, any period of time that allows you to accumulate the assets that you want at these like generational buying opportunities, like it's just a positive for us long-term value investors, right? And so I don't really see any significant I don't really see any reason to worry significantly if we were to spend a little bit more time under this 200-day moving average, because that just means that it's more time for us to accumulate not just Bitcoin and Ethereum, but the altcoins that we're willing to hold long term over the next 2 years or so, right? It's just going to give us more time to accumulate at these prices. And so that's it that I have for today's TA. Niles, I want to go ahead and throw it over to you, brother. Give us some insight into what you're seeing on the chart, any support resistance levels that you're considering. Yeah, man, let us know what you're thinking, brother.
Yeah, so actually, is it possible for me to share my screen? Sorry, I'm a first timer on StreamYard.
Yes, sir.
We got this present button.
Mm-hmm. You hit that present button, and then
Share
it's going
screen.
to ask you which screen you want to share, and then Josh will just approve it, and you're good to go.
Let's see which screen here. So let me choose. Beautiful. Let me find my chart real quick. Are we good?
Yep, you're up, buddy. Go ahead.
Awesome. So, as Jay had already pointed out, we've been consolidating around this 25K, 25.8K range right here. We've been kind of crabbing for about 3 weeks now, with no real deviation outside of the grayscale scam pump that we saw a week and a half ago. And with that move, we weren't even able to reclaim 50% on of our swing top to swing low here. So you can chalk that up to just boredom in the market and overzealous bulls, trying to or being hasty to reclaim this 30K plus range. And so the levels that I'm looking at are, as you can see, I've got these resistance and support boxes drawn here. So I'm looking, if we lose this 24.4 to 25K range, I'm looking for us to find support in this 22 to 23.8K range. I would say it's not quite as consistent. I've heard Jay allude to this in previous episodes, that you're not actually looking at price action so much as you're looking at the psychology of the market. And so in psychology, there's this dynamic where we tend to seek out relationships that are familiar to us, with especially with what we've experienced in our childhood. And I think it's really interesting the way that price action will interact with areas that it is familiar with. You see a very similar dynamic there. So I would say that this range might not be as strong as some of the support that you can see we've held up for over 400 days, some of these levels. But if we were to ultimately lose, maybe we get a rate hike like Jay alluded to, If we lose this this area of support, then the next area of support that you would find would be the 18 to 20K range. So we are ultimately still, if you know, like they say, when in doubt, zoom out. We are still in a macro uptrend. So we are bullish on high time frames, but on lower time frames, we are experiencing some significant weakness in the market. And as far as key levels of resistance that you would look to reclaim, I would be looking to reclaim 28K first. And then if we can break out of 28 to 30K range and eventually work our way up above 32K, that puts us back at a macro bullish uptrend that will confirm our uptrend if we can slowly make our way up to this area. If we continue to decline, then that's going to invalidate this uptrend and it's going to begin a weekly downtrend for us. And so what we're seeing is some significant crabbing action. Whoops, let me get rid of these guys. But what we're seeing is some significant crabbing action. And actually, what you'll see is areas that are significant support you tend to see heavy consolidation in these horizontal ranges, very similar to what we saw up here at the 31 to 32K range. And like I said, that would likely be for us a macro trigger if we break above here. And so you see these areas of significant support and resistance are heavily defended by bears and bulls. So that's what we're seeing, and we should be on a lookout for a fundamental trigger that could impact us and move us either to break out of our significant resistance or break down from our significant support levels. So yeah, with that, that's what I'm seeing in the market, and I'll toss it back on over to Jay.
Yeah, bro, fantastic analysis. That just goes to show you exactly what I was talking about earlier, right? We might come at it from different angles, but if you notice, me and Niles basically come together at the same conclusion, right? We might be performing a different analysis based on what we see in the market, right? But for the most part, we're coming to the same conclusions. Niles spoke about, you know, the psychological relationship between areas of price that you tend to see repeatedly over time because of how people react to the market. And so just consider the area of 31,000 that we had such a significantly difficult time breaking past. And when you go back in the chart history of Bitcoin, you see that area is actually where we broke down from the collapse of Luna, right? Which was kind of it started the cascade of events that led to one of the most severe bear markets in the history of Bitcoin, right? And so you see that psychological level acting as extreme resistance, which is why it took us so long before we could even break past that level this year, right? And we didn't stay too long above those levels when we did finally break past it. One more thing. I guarantee you right now, if Bitcoin, if the bulls can somehow manage to maintain this area of support, this $25,000 800, if you look at the chart, right, we've spent so much time around this $25,800, $26,000 area, basically, if you round up a little bit, that I can expect this price, this $25,800, $26,000 area, to serve as significant support during the next bear market, right? If we were to come back to these prices lower, it's going to serve as extremely significant support because people have this number so fresh in their heads, right? Because we spent so much time around here that they're gonna be like, okay, this is the time to buy it, right? Because we're not going to see these prices again. So yeah, thank you for the analysis, Niles. That was really spot on. It's always good to be able to bounce ideas off of other people, especially since your time is very limited. You're not going to be able to see everything that goes on within the market. So being able to bounce ideas off people who are also paying attention to the market it's only going to benefit you. If anybody else has any comments on the charts and what they're seeing in the price action, please go ahead now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, it's not so much comment about the charts, but it seems like you're building a little EA army out there in the desert, aren't you?
Yes, sir. I mean, I like numbers, man. The numbers help me sleep at night. So,
Jay's really right about that too. One thing I oftentimes run into is like doubting myself, right? And so I'm sitting here and I'm like viewing kind of what's going on in the market. I can see at least a little bit of charts, right? Technical analysis, Nate, right? And I can see, yeah, it's definitely like we should be going up. So should I buy now, or do I think it's going to kind of drop a little bit before it actually goes up? Should I wait for that drop, right? And I start doubting myself. I'm like, no, I shouldn't be buying. I should wait now. And I start getting like a little bit of anxiety, right? Where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So that's when you can go to, brothers where it's like, hey, what are you guys seeing? Is there an outside viewpoint that I'm not seeing at all? And I can go to Jay and be like, hey, so what do you actually think about this? And he can like give me a detailed analysis of specifically what's going on the charts, maybe a lot deeper than I can, figure out for myself. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to be going down. It's like, okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and just wait off and I'll make that decision, right? I personally think that when you start getting stuck in certain spots, like, should I buy, should I not, right? I think you really need to reach out and start either challenging yourself to try and learn other things, or get somebody else's perspective on it who may know more than you or may just have a fresher view than you,
That's definitely good insight. You know what I'm saying? And what better place to be able to bounce that information off of than our Telegram channel. Boom, it's in the description link. I'm going to plug it real quick. Make sure if you guys haven't joined up already, you guys are joining. And make sure you guys are smashing that like button. But with that said, any other comments on the topic?
Yeah, I've got something. Niles mentioned a sort of a macro trigger, some event, right, to push out of these levels. And earlier, I believe Jay also mentioned Gary Gensler's meetings in September. He had those two marks on his charts. I feel like I gravitate a lot toward those. Everybody keeps an eye on those news inflection points. If you're not keeping up with those, you're not availing yourself of all the information. I posted a link in the Telegram and also in the YouTube chat that he has 2 dates set to go before Congress. Senate Banking Committee on September 12th and the House Financial Services Committee on September 27th. So things that come about because of those meetings could very well be that trigger in one way or another. I think those are definitely days to keep on your calendar.
Bro, that's amazing. Thank you, Dace, for clarifying that, because I wasn't exactly sure what he was testifying for. Bro, so how perfect is this, right? This is like, I guarantee you the bulls are watering at the mouth. Sorry, the bears. The bears are like smelling some blood in the water, right? They're like sharks. So Gensler is set to testify in front of Congress the day before the CPI numbers come out, on the 12th. And then his next appearance on the 27th is right after the FOMC meeting. So he's got 2 within September, before the numbers come out and before Jay Powell either holds the rates or he hikes the rates, which I think he's probably gonna hike it, bro. This is like, I know people say that it's just a bunch of coincidence, bro, but I don't know, man. Things line up too perfectly sometimes for you to think it's all just a coincidence, man. So I thank you, Dace, for bringing that up, because that really clarified a lot of things for me personally. So
there will be a lot of stuff going on in September, that's for sure. No, I agree. I don't think it's an accident there.
And it's perfectly in line with what usually happens in September. Historically speaking, September has been pretty crappy for price.
I love what you call love you called him J Power. It sounds like a villain name or something. It's like, who controls all the world's money? J Power.
I like it. All right, let's go ahead and transition into the first story of the evening that we're going to be talking about. All right, that's right. ARK Invest and 21 Shares have filed with the SEC for a spot Ethereum ETF. You know what's funny is since the macro bull cycle began, all the anticipation and all the hype around Bitcoin spot ETF, it's been the talk of the town. It's been rumor milled, and rumor milled left and right. And there's been a little bit of speculation on an Ethereum spot ETF, but it's finally here. So an application has come in. So the first question that I want to pose to the panel is this. So when you consider that the market is still super flat, we just did our technical analysis. The market is still flat right now. We still have Bitcoin in charge of the overall markets. All right. It's not like the altcoins are running. We're not in an altcoin season or anything right now. It's the market is waiting for Bitcoin to make a decision, whether it's going to go up or whether it's going to go down. And that's just the case that's just the situation that we're in right now. So when you see Bitcoin dominance at a 49.5 level, and you see that the price of Bitcoin is below its 200-day moving average, the question that I want to pose is, when you get news like a spot Ethereum ETF has been filed, how important is it to consider Ethereum right now, given the trajectory that Ethereum could take once this gets approved and once we get roaring in the upcoming bull cycle? Whoever wants to take it, somebody come off of mute, and if they have any sort of opinion on that, let it fire.
Yeah, so I've been talking for about this since July, quite frankly. When you start getting Bitcoin spots, right? Where's the next step? The next step is automatically going to be going straight to Ethereum, right? Ultimately speaking, when you're looking at all the blue chips, right? What these companies are going to try and do is they're going to try and create that fence around you, right? So in creating that fence around you, I mean, how are they going to do that? They're going to make it as safe and easy as possible to be able to get, grandpa's money, right, into crypto. Now, by doing this is going to be entirely through spots, right? Same thing happened with gold, right? It's really difficult to go buy your own gold nuggets, right? Your own gold bars. So what BlackRock did is they created the first gold spot ETF, and it made it so easy where it's just like, hey, all I want to do is just get some gold. Okay, cool. We own the gold. Here's a paper receipt saying here's a piece of how much of our gold you own. Okay, and from there, gold just 10x'd, right? The same thing is going to be happening. There's approximately, in fact, as of right now, we've got financial advisors, actual financial advice, right? Advisors for these large companies and investment firms that are saying, hey, you need to be getting anywhere from like 1 to 5% of your portfolio into crypto. Obviously, they're scared over crypto because it's very volatile. Well, what's going to try and hedge that a little bit? Hey, BlackRock has a spot Bitcoin ETF. Go buy some Bitcoin. And we're going to be needing at least 5 to 1% of that. Okay, allocate it out. Cool. Right now, there's approximately 10 trillion to 15 trillion on the table that's ready to be poured into the market. Here's the problem, though, with not having a spot, right? The problem with not having a spot is that when you go to buy it, you have to physically go to an exchange, and then you have to start like buying. I mean, imagine trying to put $1 trillion into Bitcoin. How many times are you going to have to like buy 100,000 to $1 million worth of Bitcoin at a time without the slippage going crazy, right? Well, this is what's been happening with, like, say, BlackRock and all these other companies. They've been slowly buying it up, right? And as soon as they get that spot, all they're going to say is, hey, I want $1 trillion in Bitcoin. Cool. I own that much. Here you go. Here's your receipt. Bam. Instantly have it, right? This is why spots are so important, right? And they've been setting up for the Bitcoin, but I knew that people like these investment firms are not going to be looking at Bitcoin alone. They're going to be like, okay, so what are the other ones that are out there, right? That can make tons of money. The very next one they're going to go to is, the silver of crypto, right? Which is the most use case, which they can build on, aka Ethereum, right? And what I'm also seeing, and here's a prediction of mine as well, is they're going to start moving from Bitcoin spots, Ethereum spots, and then they're going to start making mutual funds of these cryptos. And these mutual funds will be, a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of Ethereum, maybe a little bit of like Polymatic, a little bit of Solana, something like that, right? And they're going to start having all these put together. I can really see like this is the reason why the whole perfect storm theory is really going to be like either this cycle or next cycle is going to make things take off. And quite frankly, enable for that 10 to 15 trillion dollars to actually come into the market and make things explode, right? It's going to take two things. Number one is people being okay and getting approved for all these spot ETFs, right? But then the second thing is regulation, so that these large players know what's illegal and what's not illegal, where the fence is, right? So that way they're not just randomly getting things thrown out there, right? So yeah, that's what I got on that.
With an Ethereum spot ETF being announced now, how much does this improve the possibility of this upcoming cycle, Ethereum overtaking Bitcoin in market cap? That's something that we have to consider as well. How much does that improve the chance? We've known pretty much since last year that Ethereum within the next cycle or two, it would certainly have the potential. Does this tip that over the edge, or is it still not the right time? Do we still need to wait a cycle? If I was to argue the case, I think it certainly supports the idea that this is the cycle. Now, it's easy to also imagine a world where, because the spot ETFs are so new, that the focus is going to go on Bitcoin, and maybe, the upcoming cycle, the macro cycle after the one that we're currently in right now, that would be the period where Ethereum could overtake it. But is there strong support out there, and is there an agreement that this could certainly improve the possibility of Ethereum overtaking Bitcoin dominance?
No.
Tank, what I want to say about that real quick, and then just real quick, Brendan. So the Ethereum, right, overtaking Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is not going to be overtaken this cycle simply because it's the big, hunt right now for all these large institutions. It's like just Bitcoin safest, let's go, right? And then they're going to start doing Ethereum as well. But come next cycle, what I think is that they're going to be, I guess you could say, getting bored of Bitcoin, and they're going to want to start expanding into other ones like more heavily. And I think that's when the flipping will finally happen. Anyways, Brendan, what's up?
Yeah, what were you thinking, Brendan?
Yeah, I was just going to say, no, I don't think Ethereum is going to overtake Bitcoin this cycle. I know a lot of people have said that, for the last couple of years, that it's possible that the next bull run, Ethereum could overtake Bitcoin. And I think that it's possible that could happen in the future, but Bitcoin's quite strong. Right now we're sitting at right above $1 trillion in market cap. Bitcoin's at about 47% of that. And so if you just compare, Bitcoin dominance to Ethereum dominance, it's like 47% to 18% or something to that extent. So Ethereum would have to, do essentially 3x more than Bitcoin this cycle to even start getting close to the numbers that Bitcoin's doing. And because I think a lot of these institutions have filed for Bitcoin spot ETFs, I think a lot of those companies will be, obviously taking more Bitcoin off the market, and we will see more Ethereum spot ETFs come on to the market, but it might take longer for them to get approved. And that might slow the process of the institutional investors raising that market cap of Ethereum. Now, if you said, hey, do you think that the gap will narrow this bull market between Bitcoin and Ethereum? Yes, I could definitely see that the gap could narrow between them. But Bitcoin is still the king. We still see that to be the big focus in the institutions. when people are new into crypto, they don't know anything else. They hear about Bitcoin. They have, all of the people that are now holding their 401ks or holding their stocks are able to invest in it. So now maybe they want to invest in Bitcoin a little bit more. And that sort of drives Bitcoin dominance a little bit further. So honestly, I would be absolutely shocked to see Bitcoin lose its number one spot this cycle. And I think that that if we're lucky, maybe it gains 20% or 30% on Bitcoin, but to fully flip it, I don't see it happening this cycle. And next cycle, even next cycle, it could be close. But there's a few factors there, right? Bitcoin, as it becomes more scarce, if it truly becomes a reserve currency of more countries, if it really starts to become sort of that digital gold that people fall back on as a safe haven, and that could drive prices up as it becomes a lot harder to purchase and a lot less numbers of Bitcoin in the market. That could cause an interesting play on the numbers. And so I think it's hard to see what's going to fully play out, but Bitcoin definitely going to be number one this cycle. And next cycle, I still can't say 100% that Ethereum would overtake it. I think people are missing the boat of how strong Bitcoin is right now.
Yeah, I agree with Brendan's analysis right there. I don't foresee the flippening taking place in the foreseeable future, but I wanted to kind of offer an antithetical opinion to what Nate was saying just a moment ago. I don't necessarily believe that a large influx of liquidity that we would see from Bitcoin and spot ETFs, even with grandma jumping in on this Bitcoin thing, like, yeah, that will most likely pump our bags. But I think that the most important, or the most crucial factor would be that is it's not necessarily the influx of liquidity, but it's Metcalfe's law, right? Back in 21, we had, QE out the ass. For anybody watching who doesn't know, QE is quantitative easing, fancy word for money printing. And we had zero interest rates, and we still capped it 69K. So Metcalfe's law states that the price of a network is equal to the number of users squared, or the number of nodes in a network squared. So if you're able to 10x your user base, you're able to approximately 100x the value of your token. But I'm not necessarily sold that would pump Bitcoin and Ethereum necessarily, but I think that would most definitely, you would see a Hart's law, rising tides raising all type of ships dynamic there. And I think that would be the bullish sentiment that I have.
Is this Ethereum's last opportunity? Is this everybody's last opportunity to sort of get on board with Ethereum before the price gets to a point to where Bitcoin is right now, where you take a look at the amount of money and what's in Bitcoin currently, and the amount of individuals that are purchasing it? It's institutional money pretty much for the most point, or it's vast wealth that's purchasing up Bitcoin right now. You don't see too many retail investors that are going in and purchasing Bitcoin, where you more so see that on the Ethereum side. So is this Ethereum's last chance? Is this everybody's last chance to get in on Ethereum?
Truthfully, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, man. I think this cycle, it is definitely going to be huge, yes. But I think the final chance is going to be next cycle. I think this cycle is going to be like kind of Bitcoin's. Bitcoin is going to continue to shine like it always has. I think next cycle, that's when Ethereum is really going to shine. Just looking at the way that they're setting up all the ETFs and everything, the way that they're allowing all that retirement money and trillions of dollars of institutional money to come flowing in, it seems like it's going to want to go in and pool around Bitcoin first. But I can see the way that these institutional people tend to do things. They're going to go next cycle. They're going to be moving all that Bitcoin money trickle down into Ethereum, right? And then from there, it'll just keep going down.
So if I was a ETH maxi and I came in and I made the statement, well, what's so shiny about Bitcoin? Bitcoin is, yeah, it can be a store of value, but you can't do anything new on Bitcoin. Ethereum you can build on. Ethereum's continuing to grow. What evidence is there that Bitcoin is shinier, or that Ethereum isn't the coin of the future, so to speak? How would anybody defend that? What could you say?
I can tell you right now that the reason why. What was that, Will?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I can tell you right now that the reasoning being is because Bitcoin is safer. Okay. When you're handling trillions of dollars of investors' monies, right? You don't want something like Ethereum to go up or down 60%. You want Bitcoin going up or down 10, 20%. That's what you want. And so for right now, this is going to be dipping your toes in the water, so to say, right? And what these investors are going to be doing is, what's the absolute safest way to possibly do this? Get those regulations so we know how to play, ball, right? We need to know the rules. As soon as we know the rules, okay, now we need to set up some sort of like caged in area with the safest crypto available, right? And then we can start dumping trillions of dollars in there. Once they kind of get warmed up a little bit with crypto, okay, that worked out good, right? We bought Bitcoin and we made a ton of money off of it. Great job. Okay, awesome. Now let's start moving on into other things, right? Look at this Ethereum one, right? I think we can make more money there. So maybe it is a little bit more risky. Maybe it's a lot less risky than it was before. Let's go ahead and create parameters using the rules of the game to now buy into Ethereum. And that's why I think it's going to be not this cycle, but next cycle, where all these investors are going to be like, yeah, let's do it again, only with a different one.
Can you repeat your question, Josh?
Yeah, pretty much for the most part is, what makes Bitcoin so shiny to the point where it's just automatically easy to say it's better than Ethereum right now, that Ethereum isn't as shiny, so to speak. It was going off the conversation that was had about 5 minutes ago, and it was worded in that aspect.
Okay. Well, I would just say that it's first and best dressed, not necessarily that it's more usable or something like that. It has the first shoe in the door that was functional for what it was intended. It's just got longer proof of concept in a world where people don't really trust brand new things. Those are my thoughts. That was all.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, right? It's like Will said it, first mover advantage, right? And so you also have to consider the fact that, look, the attention right now is all around Bitcoin. All of these major institutions are investing in Bitcoin, which means every single financial advisor is going to have an exposure to Bitcoin, right? So when the average person finally gets an exposure into the cryptocurrency market, their exposure is going to be with Bitcoin. You also have to consider the fact that, look, even though we have the application by Kathy Woods for the spot Ethereum ETF, I know that there's been a lot of speculation within the market, especially within the YouTube space, the content creators that I've been watching, that they're considering that, look, if the Bitcoin ETFs get approved, that's also going to have it's going to give the Ethereum ETF a higher likelihood of being approved also at the same time. I am on the opposite end of that spectrum. I think that it's not very likely, and the reason why I believe that it's not very likely is, look at all the resistance that the SEC is putting up against approving all of these Bitcoin spot ETFs, right? And that's considering the fact that it's the only asset that Gary Gensler and the entire SEC consider as a commodity, right? They consider it as a commodity, and yet they are still adamant about rejecting the spot ETF filings. Right? Now consider Ethereum. They don't, like I mentioned, they consider everything else a security. And so even when the time comes that Gary and the SEC decide to approve the spot Bitcoin ETFs, the fact that they still consider everything else in this space as security, Ethereum is still going to have an uphill battle when it comes to getting that spot ETF approved. Now, that might very well change in the future, right, when more regulation comes out. But as it stands, I think Bitcoin is really the only one currently that has any chance of getting a spot ETF approved, right? Just by virtue of how Gary Gensler and SEC see the cryptocurrency space as a whole. All right, so there's my thoughts on that. Now, Josh asked earlier, is it the last opportunity for people to buy into Ethereum? I don't think so, to be quite honest with you. I think, people exist in the middle of the bell curve, right? And folks are going to want to buy in when everybody else is buying in. Now, for people like us, we're probably going to exist somewhere lower on the risk curve when that time comes, because we would have already packed our bags, right? For those of us investing in Bitcoin, we would have packed our bags. The ones investing in Ethereum, we would have already filled our bags to the brim. And so at the top of the bull market, we're going to be taking profits. And when Ethereum finally makes its way into the public consciousness, right, to the broader retail market, they're still going to be buying Bitcoin. They're still going to be buying Ethereum because that's what they know. That's what their financial advisors are going to tell them to buy into. But for those of us, we're going to be existing lower down on the risk curve. But I don't think retail is going to stop buying Bitcoin and Ethereum for a while, right? Because everybody wants to be part of the group, right? Everybody's going to want to have exposure when they see this asset class, because it is the highest performing asset class of all time. They're going to want some exposure to it. And so I don't think this is the last opportunity for people. I think people are still going to be buying into it. Now the returns are going to be significantly less for sure, but people have a habit of buying into green candles. What can I say? So,
you guys don't think that the SEC has already game planned for an Ethereum spot ETF? So I guess, yeah. So
no.
You don't think they have? No,
because Gary Gensler is an idiot. He literally he literally wants to say no. Ethereum's a security. Everything's a security. Okay, I'll give you Bitcoin. That's not a security, but everything else is security. Until Gary gets out of the office, I don't think they plan for anything. I don't think they're smart enough.
I think they game plan for these companies to try and front run the decision by thinking that, okay, we're gonna file for the Ethereum ETF because we think it's going to have a high likelihood of being accepted if Bitcoin does. Right? I think they plan for that. And I think Gary's plan is to reject it the same way that he's been rejecting the Bitcoin ones. So that's what I meant by that. As far as like planning is concerned, look, during the case with Grayscale, the judge said that their process by which they decided to reject the transition of Grayscale's trust into an ETF was arbitrary. That's just basically a fancy way of saying that you guys gave absolutely no clear guidelines as to why you rejected them. And that's basically what arbitrary means. So, I mean, I agree with Brendan there, man. Like Gary, it's either he doesn't know what he's doing because he's actually ignorant, or he's actually a malicious individual, in which case he's doing what he's doing because he just wants to hurt the investors and he actually doesn't want to protect people. Now, I'm not saying that he is, right? But it's one of the two possibilities, right? It's either he's doing it out of ignorance or he's doing it out of malice, right? And I don't tend to assign to malice what I can first assign to stupidity. So I'm just going to assume that he's stupid.
Well,
I'm gonna make this comment, and then Will, I want to pass it to you, and then I want Dace, because I know Dace is sitting off of mute also. I just want to make this comment real quick, and then I'm gonna pass it back to you, Will. So Gary Gensler aside, look, here's the case. All right, we're standing hypothetically, like in another world right now, this is the analogy that I'm going to use. Okay. We're standing on the Florida coast. All right. We look out into the ocean, right? We see nothing but black clouds that are rolling in. We can feel the wind starting to pick up. We know that a Cat 5 hurricane is sitting right off the coast. All right. That is what we know for a fact is going to happen when we consider that a spot Bitcoin and a spot Ethereum ETF are on the horizon. They're going to happen. Okay. Now, Gary Gensler aside, I think that I'm going to disagree. I think that people in the SEC have at least considered this, and they at least have some sort of internal plan in place. Now, what that plan might be, whether it's to shut everything down to try to, hold off on it, that might be the case. I have to at least believe that they have game planned for this, because it's so easy to see the writings on the walls that all this stuff is going to come to fruition. But Will, what were you going to say?
I was just going to. I like your Heinlein's razor there, Jay. That is. I love using that in regular life as well. Don't attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity. Fantastic choice there, good sir. But I don't necessarily think that it's malice quite so much in the sense that they're trying to hurt other people, as much as their actions would be in the pursuit of self-service, right? You can always trust, you can probably always trust that people will chase their own goals and their own leveling up or just making more money off of any opportunity possible. I think that's the direction that they're going. Not so much that they're trying to actively hurt investors, but that they're trying to best find the way to line their own pockets and the pockets of those that fund them, and that will get. It's essentially, I would say, it's a means to an end. The things that they're doing, and this is what I sort of kind of assume with everybody who's in some sort of position of power, is that they're trying to expand their power, expand their wealth, expand their influence, not necessarily malice. And I think that might have been, perhaps I'm just splitting hairs here or something like that, but I think that's probably the direction that the SEC is going. And specifically good old Gary Gensler. So that's all I got. Dace, what do you got?
So I just pulled up, it looks like ARK filed their application for their BTC spot ETF June 28th, 21. They like to kind of be early on these things, right? And now we're here. It's a couple of years later. And so I think, to echo, Jay took the words out of my mouth. Regulatory clarity is the answer to your question, that what Bitcoin has that Ethereum doesn't. Even your most staunch anti-crypto folks are making allowances and starting to make legal roads for Bitcoin to be white labeled, let's say. And I think if they do that, they're going to give the people that are in the hopper waiting to have their spot Bitcoin ETF filings pushed through, they're going to give them their time in the sun to be the only kids in town in terms of offering that particular unique vehicle into the crypto space. And so just wanted to round off with saying, that I think ARK, it is characteristic of their nature to want to show up early in the application process, as they should. I applaud them for it. And be prepared to wait. That's all I have to say. Be prepared to wait. I don't think it's not going to happen, but it'll be a wait. I think the regulatory clarity, particularly coming from election time, I think that's the inflection point for a lot of this moving any further forward than just rumors.
Yeah. And you know what, good point there. You know what happened? You know what happens if you start up a company around Bitcoin? You don't get Gary Gensler coming after you, accusing you of selling unregistered securities.
Correct.
Right. And so it's like you said, the regulatory clarity, the safety, right? The golden stamp of approval, not just from all of these large hedge fund companies, but also from the SEC. I don't see Ethereum flipping Bitcoin for that reason, because people are going to not only they're not only going to rush to the asset that is the highest performing asset of all time, but also the asset where they can start companies and businesses in that they know is going to have clear guidelines, that the law is not going to come after them for participating. Right? And so that's precisely the reason why I think, despite the bullishness of this news by Cathie Wood and ARK to file for the spot Ethereum ETF, I don't think they're going to flip Bitcoin whatsoever, right? And I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I just think that the amount of attention that it's on Bitcoin right now, and especially not just here in the United States, right? There's did you guys see that one clip of the Mexican billionaire? Like everything in his portfolio is just Bitcoin. Let me hold up, bro. I think I've got it here somewhere. Give me 1 second. I think I have it on my Twitter. This is hilarious, bro. I love this guy because his accent, bro. I'm like, he reminds me of my Filipino uncle. Here it is. I'm gonna share this with you guys really quickly. 1 second. I got it right here. Give me a second. I'm going to share this very amazing clip with you guys of this Mexican billionaire. Here we go.
Companies in the liquid part of the portfolio, I now opted to, I basically just have Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, 4 or 5 miners, and some oil companies and some gold miners. That's it. In the liquid part of the
bros,
and his liquid part is literally all just like money printing machines.
Bro, you talking about long Bitcoin, bro.
Yeah.
Like Bitcoin, mining companies, MicroStrategy. Like this guy is long Bitcoin. And that's not like, look at El Salvador, right? Like Taiwan, everywhere around the world, right? You could also recognize this pattern in areas of the world where their currencies are failing. What are they turning into? They're turning to crypto. And what are they using as their currency? As their like they want to make it the reserve currency. It's Bitcoin, bro. So like if you just expand your horizons to everywhere else outside of the US, you notice that these people aren't talking about altcoins. They're not degenerates like us, right? They might be considering Ethereum, but they're all talking about Bitcoin, bro. You know, like I said, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. That's just what I'm seeing from everybody else outside of the United States.
Yeah, and don't forget that Argentina just had an upset in their presidential election, and they essentially are going to have a new president that is pro Bitcoin, and no one thought that he was going to win. But you know, when your interest rates are over 100%, okay, Argentina's interest rates, because of how bad their economy is, were just raised from like 90% to 116% or 118% or something like that. Okay, we're at 5%, right? 5.25 to 5.5 interest rates. They're at 116%. And so the people that are voting in their country are like, we need to do something differently because our economy isn't working. And so what do? They're turning to candidates that are crypto friendly, that might have an opportunity to do something other than trust the fiat currency that's devouring them currently. So like you said, Jay, there's a lot, and we're going to see more. We're going to see more of these countries start adopting crypto. Now, it'll be interesting. You know, you talk about the flipping, Josh. It'll be interesting when the first company decides that they're going to use Ethereum as a reserve currency, not Bitcoin. That'll be a really interesting one. And it's going to happen someday. No doubt in my mind it's going to happen someday. Do I think it's going to happen around the corner? Probably not. But 100% I could see Ethereum as a reserve currency for a country someday.
If you guys have not looked into this new Argentinian president guy, he is something else. He's like the Donald Trump, Richard Hart, freaking outspoken, super loud, enthusiastic dude. I heavily recommend watching some of his interviews. This guy is awesome. I think that Argentina, well, I mean, just on my uneducated opinion, I think Argentina is going to good places perhaps in the near future.
I sent you a link of his, I think yesterday, Will. It's crazy you mentioned that. Also, I'm a fan of the guy.
Yeah.
It's interesting
Yep.
because he was expected to finish 3rd or 4th in the race, and he ends up winning it. That's crazy to me. But it shows that when a country is failing and they don't trust their government and they can't trust the money because the money is losing value every single time that they're holding in their hand, they need to turn to something to try to change their future, change their outcome. And we talk about, becoming self-sufficient. We talk about, finding a way to break out of, this inflationary regime around the world, right? Every currency, especially if you're just going to keep printing money, is just going to be inflationary. And so they're trying to find a way to get away from that. And they're saying the only thing that we can even think about as a way to get out of what's happening right now is to elect a crypto-friendly president. They had no other thought of how to get out of their current situation. And that's why they elected him.
All right, Nate, I'm going to throw it over to you, and then we're going to transition to the next story. Do you want to put the final touches on this article here?
Yeah. So I actually, it's not, I got a question for everybody, right? So what do you think is going to happen as far as these ETFs go? Do you think they're all going to get approved at the same time? Or do you think it's going to be kind of like just one right after another? Or is like only a few of them going to actually get approved and the other ones getting rejected? What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think all approved at the same time, but I'm pretty sure we all know which name is going to come out first.
And it is a color and a geological item. Put those together, and what do we get? BlackRock. I think that probably they'll all get approved as long as there's not an issue with the filing of one of the ETFs, right? Like they didn't properly choose a custodian, or there's some sort of issue with the custodian that they chose, or some other issue that they need to quickly fix. Like Jay said, I think they'll probably all get pretty much approved around the same time. And again, if the ones that need to make some adjustments, that'll happen. They'll probably be approved. Does it mean that they're going to approve at this next round in October? I don't know. I think they could push it off one more time. It feels like GG wants to have as much control as he wants. As he's losing control, it feels like this is the only thing that he can do is say, hey, I still have the choice to approve or not. So we'll see. I don't think they'll approve this October, but it's possible. We'll see.
Cool deal. All right, let's go ahead and transition. But before we do, Niles, man, we appreciate you coming on the show, dude, and telling us a little bit about yourself. And look forward to chatting with you more in the community, man. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I just wanted to say before I go, thanks for having me on, first and foremost. And, I love what you guys are doing, building the community over here. I'm very grateful that I was able to catch the CMC Q2, or Q3 rather, and no, Q2, yeah. And link up with you guys. I said it before in the Telegram. I resonate a lot with a lot of you guys, and sometimes more so than the people that I meet in my day-to-day life. So keep doing what you're doing, keep building, and it was a pleasure. I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Niles.
All right, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, man. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and transition here. 1 second to get the slide up. All right, so Google will allow ads for NFT games starting September 15th. The new updates to the cryptocurrency ads policy allow for NFT gaming ads, provided the games and ads don't promote gambling. Jay, take it away, buddy.
Okay, so before we actually dive too deep into it, let me clarify a little bit of what Google actually said in their terms and conditions, right? So I've got it over here. They said that NFT games that allow players to purchase in-game items like virtual apparel for a player's characters, weaponry, or armor with better stats, consumed or used in a game to enhance a user's experience or aid users in advancing the game. And so, to be quite honest with you guys, when I saw this article drop, right, when I saw this news drop, the first thing that I thought to my head is this is extremely bullish for the market as a whole. I think it's not just amongst us here in our group, right? But I think every single creator out there that exists within the umbrella of crypto knows that whenever they try to do something on Facebook, they try to do something on Instagram or YouTube, anything outside of maybe Rumble or Twitter, because Elon Musk owns Twitter, anytime that you put out any kind of cryptocurrency content, you know that that content is going to be shadow banned and that your engagement isn't going to be as high, right? And that there's a very high likelihood that your content is probably going to be demonetized. So the fact that Google is now allowing ads to pop up that allow people to promote the sale of NFTs in regards to games, as long as they don't promote any sort of gambling, I think that's a pretty big deal. Now, if you actually go into the article, they say that there are, aside from the gambling stipulation, right, that they are still not going to allow people to promote like cryptocurrencies, with a caveat, which I will go over it later. But let's be honest here. We've spoken about this prior. The gaming industry is extremely large, right? Because that is the generation after us, and every single generation that will follow will exist online. And those people play a lot of video games, even more so than what most of us here grew up with, right? We played video games, sure, but we also spent a lot of time playing outside, right? Getting our hands dirty, playing sports. But the unfortunate reality is the next generation of kids and the generation will follow, a lot of them will exist online, and they're going to be exposed to the NFT marketplace. And if now Google is allowing these gaming studios and these industries and companies to promote their NFTs, as long as they're selling, as long as the NFT is being used in game as a way to advance in the game, right, and not as a form of gambling, then they're going to get exposed to crypto eventually, right? Because NFT is not too far removed from everything else within the space right now. I will share the article with you guys quickly because there's something very important here that the article did mention as far as like the stipulations. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, and they do state it here, they state that the new policy will continue to ban advertisements for games allowing players to wager or stake NFTs against other players for rewards, including cryptocurrencies and other non-fungible tokens, right? So, for example, I know that there's a few games that we're keeping an eye on, like Shrapnel, for example, that allow the staking of some of their in-game assets to allow for rewards. That kind of stuff will not be allowed, right? So if you're, like, for example, I know that some companies are probably going to be like, okay, we just can't promote the gambling side of our game, right? But if we try and promote the sale of our in-game assets that don't relate to gambling, then we can kind of circle around that. That's not going to happen. If your game is if any aspect of your game has any gambling related to it, they're immediately going to flag you, and you're not going to be able to promote your stuff. However, check this out a little bit lower into the article. It says that to run ads that promote gambling related content that integrates NFTs, developers and publishers must comply with the gambling in games policy and receive the proper Google Ads certification, right? And so, give me a second here. Let me stop sharing my screen. And so it's kind of funny to me that Google is over here saying that, hey guys, if you want to promote ads related to gambling, we just have to make sure that you're approved, but that you take our Google Ad certification and related to gambling. So it's kind of like a money grab, right? So they're not saying that you're not going to be able to promote your your project, if there's any gambling related to it, you just have to make sure that you take our Google Ads certification relating to gambling so that you're following the proper processes and procedures, but you're eventually going to be able to do it. So I'm like, bro, this is like Google is just trying to do a money grab here. But I think that this is overall pretty bullish for the space as a whole, because now, like, we all know that Google owns YouTube, right? And so this is going to give people an in to the cryptocurrency space through video games and through NFTs, right? I think some of you might be familiar here because we've invested in the project called Palomos, right? And their Palomos is basically going to be like a marketplace. I think this is super cool, right? If you're into video games and you play things like D&D, like what's the first thing that people do during a campaign when they enter a new city, right? They go to the shops, right? They look for quests, they look for shops, they look at the quest board, right, in the guild. That's what basically the Palomos Forge is going to be like, right? Where you go in there, you look at the items that they have that you could rent out, right? You're basically exchanging, like, let's say you have some money to spare. Like, I don't want to go through the grind of acquiring this in-game asset. I just want to be able to play and enjoy the game. So I'm going to pay you because you've already spent the time acquiring this asset. So I'm going to pay you in fiat or in crypto, and I'm going to be able to rent out that in-game asset to use for a specific period of time, right? And so you can imagine what that's going to do to a project like Palomos if they're able to promote now on Google, and they're not going to get shadow banned for it, right? That they're now able to advertise on YouTube, and they're not going to get banned for it. It's going to give that company and other companies like it a ton of eyes on their products, right? And that's going to give everybody that's involved within that space a potential into crypto. Because like I said earlier, you're not very far removed from cryptocurrencies by participating in NFTs. So when I saw this, I was like, bro, bullish. And this is just one of the news that came out like within the last week or so that tells me the FUD in the market is so that people and the average retail consumer sell out of their bags so that other companies and other big players can buy into it. Because news like this is extremely bullish for the space as a whole. So I'm going to open up the floor to you guys. Let me know what your thoughts on this, because I know a lot of you guys here are gamers. Like, give me your ideas, man.
So one thing that I want to point out, Jay and everybody else here, when Google started talking about that, notice how they set up rules and regulations. Now, obviously, it's just, with Google itself, right? But they still said very specifically, this is how you play by the rules, right? This is what gets me bullish about it, is because the only thing that crypto is really missing right now is rules of the game, okay? Over here in crypto world, how we know it is all meme land, right? Let's have fun and not financial advice. You could get wrecked, so keep your seeds and seed phrase and all that, right? It's like that. Those are the only rules that we know. But when you're dealing with trillions of dollars, you can't be having that, right? So Google is very specific. They want this to happen because they know that all these institutions are going to start coming in. They're one of them as well. But they also understand that if you don't have very strict rules, people are going to get wrecked, and specifically lots of institutional money is going to get wrecked, and that is a no-go when it comes to traditional finance.
Yeah, and I think another problem that worries a lot of these companies like Google, Facebook, etc. FTX and Luna. They're still a little bit worried about allowing these ads, and then losing, and then these companies losing trillions and trillions of dollars. Now, this NFT news is bullish, as Jay said. First of all, because NFTs are really part of the cryptocurrency space. Sure, they're maybe adjacent in a sense, but they are. They're built on a blockchain. They're within an area where they're built on a platform, be it ETH or whatever else. Now, there are a couple things that make this the first step forward. Everything starts somewhere, okay? And this is where crypto and NFTs are starting to allow advertisements. So what happens next? Okay, now Google allows advertisements for non-crypto gambling NFTs, unless, of course, you just pay us a little extra money, and then, you know, we'll allow you also to put ads on for gambling NFTs that are involved in gambling. Now, I think there's a bunch of gray areas that come into here, right? If you have a game and it's loot boxes, then you have random chances to get loot. Now, they've previously said that that's not gambling because there's no real world currency tied to it. But what if those are now NFTs and then they can be sold and now there's real world currency? So there's like a lot of games, obviously, like Fortnite and pretty much every first-person shooter that has loot boxes. And therefore, you know, there is going to be some gray areas of, you know, what's gambling and what's not. But let's not be disillusioned. This is where it starts. And then all NFTs are allowed to have advertisements. And then select cryptocurrencies are allowed to have advertisements. And as the bull market takes off and as more spot ETFs get approved, Google's going to have more pressure on them, as are all of these other institutional companies, right? Facebook, Instagram, etc. They're going to start to get more pressure to allow more types of ads from these other types of cryptocurrencies, be it Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then you go down the list of all of these other cryptocurrencies. So it's only a matter of time that everything is allowed to be advertised and monetized. And when that happens, like Jay said, now we don't get shadow banned when we say certain words on YouTube. Now we don't get shadow banned when if I post a link to this video on my Facebook and I type cryptocurrency, or even if I don't, 0 people on my friends list get to see that post, okay? 0 people, because it has cryptocurrency and they shadow ban it. Now, that happens on a lot of platforms, but as adoption starts to move forward, starting with NFT ads, slowly we will stop seeing the shadow bans. We'll start to see more monetization. Facebook, Google, everybody else starts to see dollar signs in their eyes, and then we're off to the races, right? That's the next. When you start to see shadow bans taken away, when you start to see cryptocurrencies start to be advertised on all of these platforms, I don't know, we might be getting close to the top and you might need to take profits. That's all I'm saying.
It's amusing just how close to like NFTs this system of gaming already, well, like not even just gaming, but just everything in the digital world, because an NFT is just a non-fungible token. It's just a digital asset that exists on an Ethereum, well, for now, Ethereum blockchain or Polygon or whatever, right? So games like Fortnite that have loot boxes, game like World of Tanks that have like premium tanks you can buy, games like Roblox. I don't know if you guys have ever looked into like the economy that surrounds Roblox, but there's a chick I was seeing a while back, and one of her kids was showing me just like the amount of money that he's making buying and selling assets on Roblox, you know, and he's like a 13 or 14-year-old dude. And he was just like, I was like, oh my God, this shit's NFTs. This whole thing is just like an eBay system set up around a game, you know, Minecraft, anything. It's like the similarity between banks using their ledger system and Bitcoin, Ethereum using their blockchain system. The only difference is one is public and accessible to the world, and the other one is just a private organization that's running their own little show thing. Like all these gaming companies essentially have NFTs. It's just that they are the only ones that can view it, and it's not like, I don't know. I don't think that we're terribly far from all these advertisements and things. I think they might just be stringing it along for the sake of, you know, money grabbing, or they don't understand this brand new thing or whatever. But like, we're already there, man. Just the gaming companies and Google advertising, they're the last ones to the fucking, well, they're not the last ones, but they're certainly not the first ones to the fucking boat.
Bro, you brought up a really good point there, and I actually wanted to get everybody's thoughts on this, right? Before this NFT stuff existed, right? The gaming industry basically like privatized the ownership of all of these assets.
Yeah.
And you brought up the example of the gal's son, how he was making a profit out of the economy around Roblox, right? But that's very difficult for him to buy and sell because it's kind of it's isolated in a sense.
Exactly.
But now you're allowing players, right, to put their time and labor into a game. And if they're very skilled at it, and there are a lot of people who spend hours and hours and hours, right, perfecting a game, right, that 100% completion on a game, that they're not able to monetize. And if they try to monetize it, they have to go in a very roundabout way in order to do it. Because that's existed for quite a while, right? If you want a perfect Pokemon Yellow cartridge with all of these guys have perfect IVs and everybody and your Pokedex is complete and you want to buy that cartridge, that exists, right? But there's not a centralized marketplace where it's going to be easy for you to buy and sell that particular item. But now, because of something like this, right? Because of NFTs, now as a gamer, now you have a better chance of being able to monetize your skill as a gamer so that you're not just pissing away your life and your time away playing a video game, not making income out of it. Now, if you're extremely skilled as a video game player, you have a better chance of making a living off of it, at least a lot better than than your chances currently are today. Right? Because even though we have esports, that is a very small minority of the gaming community that makes a significant amount of income from it. Right? But now you give that opportunity to a lot more people. So I don't see this as anything but bullish. And I know that people have gamers have an aversion to NFTs within the marketplace, but I think once they see the potential that they can now actually make a living off what they're doing and what they love anyway, they're gonna become a lot more open to it.
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there, Jay, about it. Well, so I don't know if NFTs in gaming are going to be a good thing or a bad thing, and people can definitely make money off of it. My personal anecdotal experience, I don't know who here is a Fallout 76 player or was or whatever, but I bought that game when it first came out, and I remember grinding for hours and hours, playing the game, having fun, just hanging out with my buddies in the open world and everything. And there's like, as you progress through the game, you level up and you get access to cooler guns and things that you find by completing missions and stuff. And there was potential exploits in the game, and people figured out ways to duplicate things or get powerful guns or whatever. And I remember I was just like, I was stuck at a certain level and I was super bummed out about it. And I Googled, hey, is there like a marketplace for anyone selling these guns or whatever that I can use to fight this one boss thing? And I ended up buying a fucking super duper crazy overpowered gun that just essentially lets me one shot anything in the game for $6. And it was just like, it broke the entire fun of the game because now nothing was challenging anymore. It's like, when you beat Skyrim and you got all the cheats and you're just God moding everything, and it was an open world game where you play with other people. So that was like, it wasn't even, this was before NFTs even came out, I think. But just like I was able to buy a $6 weapon and then, add this guy on my Xbox friends list, and I met him in the in-game world or whatever, and he literally dropped the gun for me. And God knows, there's probably there's all sorts of things, but a $6 gun broke the game, So I can see how NFTs might potentially, the higher ticket items will just essentially pay to win any participant or whatever. I'm not sure what the future is going to have, or if that was like that was a fluke or perhaps a learning point in the system. But I think that NFTs have the potential to break games that developers spend years making, or they might have the potential to make games super duper awesome. I'm not entirely sure. I saw I suppose the worst aspect of being able to buy an asset on a public market that just totally makes the game not fun anymore. It's my own little story there.
It's a good point, but here's the thing, right? There's going to be a marketplace for people that want to game breaking items, and then there's going to be customers that don't want those kinds of items, right? Those different types of marketplaces are going to exist depending on the type of gamer that you are, right? And I think when it comes to competition, I think there's going to be less of that buy an item, it breaks the game, and it breaks the game for everybody else. I think personally, those games are not going to last, right? But even then, there's going to be a marketplace for those kinds of games where it's going to be pay to win, right? The same way that the marketplace exists now in the traditional gaming industry, where there are specific games that are pay to win, there are games that are more competitive that they don't allow pay to win. And you brought up the point of yes, it's possible that there's going to be cheating involved, right? But because it exists on the blockchain, I think it's going to be a lot less likely, right? Because if you try to spoof something and it's fake, I think people are going to be able to identify that a lot quicker when it exists on the blockchain. But
well, there's something to be said about fake things being usable, right? So like if I counterfeit a $100 bill and it's obvious that it's fake, and then I go around trying to use it, then people will say, oh, that's counterfeit, fuck you, get out of here. And then, they'll call the cops or whatever. But if I'm able to use a counterfeit item, right, something that's not like, let's for all intents and purposes, whether it exists on the blockchain or not, if it's a usable item that's counterfeit, it doesn't necessarily matter that it's counterfeit. Like if somebody's got a painting that looks like the Mona Lisa and the real Mona Lisa has gone missing or something like that, and there's no way to like verify or some shit, there's something in there. Again, I'm kind of splitting hairs here or whatever, but that I see your point. I'm going to withdraw my statement actually.
Yeah, the thing that I wanted to add on there, Will, is simply this. There are legitimate services for your skill level in gaming, right? With Overwatch, I'd go up to Diamond or Masters or wherever in the competitive scene, and then I'd say, hey, go to eBay and sell an account, right? You can get the Gmail and the password to have this account. And you sell it for like anywhere from 20 to 50 bucks. And so then over on like, say, Destiny, right? Destiny 2, you have these certain guns and things that ultimately could equate to what you may think of as like an NFT, right? But you have to do a very specific special type of thing to achieve unlocking that gun, right? And grabbing it. And so again, you have somebody pay, me like 20 bucks or whatever. Okay, cool. I'll get into your lobby. And I will carry you through and you can go grab that gun for yourself. I don't think it's ever going away. Even if it's not pay to win, there's ways to pay to win, and it's always going to be that way. So I think at this point, it's just moving forward.
I'll also just say that Fallout 1776, that specifically, that game had a lot of problems when it was launched. There were a lot of kind of broken problems with it.
Yeah.
And so I think it got terrible reviews, a lot of big problems. So I think, you're talking about a broken gun in the game. That wasn't the only thing broken about that game. And so if a game is properly built and properly put together, then, you'll have probably a more equal bartering system and things won't be as broken. But as Nate said, Destiny 2, like when I play Destiny 2, I know if I wanted to, I could have helped people get all of these guns by going flawless in the Crucible. And I know people that used to pay for that kind of stuff. And yeah, I didn't want to spend all of this extra time making 50 or $100 to help, somebody else earn a gun. That's just wasn't interesting to me. Plus it's like, not on the traditional market, kind of weird. But yeah, I played Destiny for far too long and don't really have a lot of time to play anymore, but it was a great game.
Yeah, look, I would say whether it's whatever the game is, when you look at game theory, like the proper meta has to be established for the valuation of the assets in the game. So you look at something like EVE Online, where somebody can spend unbelievable amounts of money, and then there's so many different examples of games that have used monetization differently, and I think you're going to have a whole new wave of that happening with the NFT enabled, with games that are on chain, let's say, or games with NFT assets. I think that there will be a balance to strike, and that, like Jay was saying before, but also to Will's point, there will be a market for different types of games and different amounts of investment required to successfully or fully participate. Let's put it that way.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that here's another cool thing, right? It might start off as you selling in-game assets on something like Flomos or renting it out, but let's say you become recognizable as somebody who has that skill. You might now be able to outsource your skill, not just in that video game, but in playing video games in general, and you're able to sell the skill of playing and monetize that, right? So you might have just turned something scalable. right? Zenith actually, so Funkmaster Hex and Zenith made really good comments here. Funkmaster says, I think Palomos will be huge, but will take a while to get real gamers into crypto gaming. And then Zenith follows up with, Hex is right. Appealing on large to the gaming crowd will be huge, but I fear that the average gamer is very hostile and skeptical towards NFTs and crypto. Now, I don't think that's surprising at all. I think that reflects the overall feeling towards the crypto market as a whole. The same way that the overwhelming majority of retail are still skeptical about crypto, the overwhelming majority of gamers, traditional gamers, are skeptical of NFTs and in-game assets that you can buy and sell. That's precisely the reason why they're so adamant about not involving those within their games. I mean, look at the Japanese RPG gaming industry. They are so hostile towards Square Enix providing NFTs within Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. Like, they just don't want it. But I think you give it enough time and you allow people to see exactly the type of the ability that they're going to be able to have to make money by playing video games. I think money talks, and I think money convinces people of a lot of things. And I think if you give these folks the opportunity to be able to monetize their skills, right? Actually, you know that old saying that do something that you love or follow your passion. But we all know it's a bunch of bullshit anyway, because sometimes your passion might not necessarily be able to make you fucking money. Well, if you're passionate about video games and all you do is play video games, you spend every single waking moment outside of your 9 to 5 playing video games, then you now have a marketable skill. How can you not be open to that? And so I think this is just going to be a win overall. Give it time. Give it time.
Good input. Good input. I mean, I'm glad you guys have the ability to carry the conversation on this sort of topic. I was never really into gaming that much. The only input that I'm going to give on this topic, and I'm going to get back to the original article, what you were saying when you were mentioning it, Jay. But I think the homie Zenith brought up a good point here, where I think it's important to be able to define. I think Google needs to be able to define exactly what gambling is, and I think the parameters that they're putting in place needs to be well established, and it needs to be well defined, and it needs to be strenuous across the board. We all know how easy it is for various tech companies and social media groups to bend the rules this way, that way, any which way possible. So I think it's paramount that there needs to be strong definitions so that every single NFT ad that's out there, every single company that's putting it out, it's well defined, and it's an equal playing field when it comes to these sort of rules that are being implemented. But like I said, I'm not really that much into NFTs. I don't really, I'm not that big into gaming. So I'm thankful that you guys have the ability to carry that sort of conversation. So I'm thankful for that. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and start transitioning. Let's go ahead and start the closeout process. We were not able to get to our third article, unfortunately, just due to time constraints. So we will drop the link for the third article in the Telegram group. And if you guys want to have a discussion in the Telegram, we can certainly do that. But so Dace, I want to turn it over to you, buddy. If you want to go ahead and start the closeout process, just let everyone know if you got anything coming up around the corner that you're excited about, where they can find you on Twitter, and what they can look forward to over the next couple weeks.
Sure. I'm at Dace Northal on Twitter. I'll be around. Look, I'm trying to, like I said, grow the business and stack coins, man. I think Jay picked up a couple of really important dates that we need to all pay attention to, and we'll be talking about that in the Telegram chat as they come out as well, and sharing lots of, I'm sure, spicy opinions as events unfold.
Awesome, man. Hey, Will, what you got coming up, buddy?
I am still stuck in the Adirondack Mountains over here in New York. Very little signal. Got to drive over here to Plattsburgh anytime I want to use the internet. Frickin', I'll probably be here for another week or two, and then it's off over to Eastern New York. So anybody who's in that area, feel free to hit me up in the Telegram. I'll swing by, say hi. Maybe we'll do a little interview for the channel or whatever, or we'll just shoot the shit. Who knows? But that's what I got going on for me. Nothing too crazy in the pipeline other than that. Mr. Nate, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm just trying to get promoted and all that. I'm on to my third interview now, which is the final one. So maybe I'll get the position, and that's going to be more money stacking for me. I like more dry powder, right? Especially now. I've been so bored as of late of just how the crypto market is moving. It's basically just always sideways. Like I said, I've been monkeying around with meme coins at this point. Any extra money I got, I'm just like tossing it, and they're like, "Hey, let's try it." Yeah, right. But yeah, no, I know right now that this is the time to start throwing as much money as possible in, right? Back up the truck, take out the loans and everything, mortgage your house, mortgage your mortgage your business you've had for 37 years, right? But yeah, now is definitely the time to be jumping in, get as much capital into crypto as you can right now, because as soon as these institutions finally release Bitcoin, I'm not gonna lie, everything is gonna be just slingshotting up. And it has been, I've been saying this for a while now, it's been wanting to fly for a while now, and it's been artificially held down. So guys, pack it while it's being held down.
Brendan, what you got coming up, dude?
Well, today is September 10th. So tomorrow in a few hours is September 11th. I just want to kind of give a reminder and a shout out to all of the people that lost loved ones during the 2001 tragedy on September 11th. Also want to give a shout out to all of our first responders, nurses, doctors, everyone who is digging through rubble to help, save people's lives. Just the outpouring of help that people had. So, I don't want us to forget that as a country. And for all of our differences that we have, the bottom line is we're really, really very close to each other. And we have more in common than we have apart. So keep that in mind. Also, the day after September 11th is September 12th. That is when the next CPI numbers come out. And I'll be hammering the chat about that. So it's a very important date. Currently, I think we're about 85% that they say that there's an 85% chance that the Fed is going to pause this next in September, the rate hikes. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I'm not going to say 100%, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the CPI numbers tomorrow. Very, very big. And if we start to continue to see sticky inflation, if we start to see an uptick in inflation, we had oil prices rise in August. We had some of those energy prices that are not part of the core inflation rise a bit. So I'm really curious to see how the numbers look. Of course, they do make the numbers say what they want them to a little bit by changing how long they look back on a cycle. But nonetheless, really important date. And I just want to thank everyone for looking out, and we will see you next time. Jay, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, next week is going to be very interesting, guys. So keep your fingers on the pulse of the market, because Gensler testifies before Congress, CPI comes out, and then the following week, it's a Fed meeting. And so if the CPI numbers are much higher than we expect them to be, which wouldn't surprise me because it's reflective of the higher prices that we're seeing once again, and JP holds the rates, it would be very incongruent with how he's been acting throughout the past year and a half. And so, man, if he raises and the CME says 85%, we see a hold, watch out below. Okay, so keep your eyes and ears open the next few weeks, because it's going to be a very important next 2 weeks for crypto. Yeah, as far as where you can find me always on agent_J Schroth, on Instagram under _P90 Hex, on Twitter. Once again, thank you guys as always for spending a little bit of time taking the time out of your Sundays to spend with us here. We know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend some of that here with us. If you want a consultation with me, like I said, my consultations are open. So hit me up if you want to talk about your portfolio, you want to talk about the charts, you want to talk about prices. I am open for consultations. And as always, please like, subscribe, share, and join our Telegram, because you can access us there for free. Okay, so once again, thank you guys. Josh, go ahead and close it out. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, again, guys, my name is Josh. You guys can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Chocolate Taints. That's where you guys can find me. And check it out. We got so much stuff coming down the pipe for you guys. Our schedule just keeps getting more and more packed, and it's funny because I feel like we have to keep devoting more and more time to the channel and the stuff that we got coming up. So let's talk about DR Insights. We got we're going to have some options and some tradings, DR Insights around the way. We also might have one around security. We're going to have Zenith on the show with us next Sunday. That's going to be fun to be able to talk about exactly what's going on with the CPI report. We're going to be able to talk about Gary Gensler and stuff like that with him. He always has some great insight. So Zenith will be joining us next Sunday. And we also have our special guest, Sam from Brother 64. He will be joining us on Wednesday. So that is this coming Wednesday, 8 o'clock p.m. After that, man, we got Crypto Sloth, we got Corey Costa, and we got a bunch of other people that are in the process right now of confirming whether they can be on the show or not. So we're going to have a bunch of different people coming around the horizon. And it's so much fun being able to do this stuff for you guys. So that's what we have coming around the corner. Again, make sure you guys find our Telegram in the description. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys are joining our Telegram. If you guys haven't, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Hit that notification bell. And you guys can find all of the DGen Roundtable as well as all the panelists' social medias in the description as well. So for everyone that was able to catch our show live, we appreciate it. We love the back and forth, and we love being able to do this show in front of a live audience, so we appreciate it. If you guys are catching us on the replay, make sure you guys check back Wednesday at 8 o'clock. That's when we are going to have Sam from Brother 64. He'll be cutting it up with us and having a really solid conversation. So with that being said, we thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys back here at 8 o'clock on Wednesday. And with that being said, you guys have a great night, and we out.